What is up and welcome back. We are your Emerald Coast relocation team, and we know that so many states have been moving down into Florida. It has been one of the top states that so many people around the United States are moving into. The question is, what is that number one state relocating in Florida? Well, it's New York. In fact, it's almost double what the number two position is, which is California. So California in 2022, there's about 50,000 residents who relocated in Florida. New York, you're looking at 91,000 people moving from New York down into Florida. Although I have never really experienced New York outside of just visiting, New York City a few times on the whole tourist style thing. But I can say that I think there's a few things I can relate on in regards to what to look forward to moving from somewhere like New York into Florida. We're going to cover those. First one's being is the cost of living. This is probably going to be one of the most stark differences between moving from somewhere like New York and to Florida. Actually, one of the most stark ones. I'd say the last one is probably the most stark in regards to New York, comparing it over to Florida. So make sure you do stick around towards the end of the video to find out what that stark comparison is. But let's go and break into that cost of living. So let's just compare overall. The way that we like to approach this is we use that cost of living index, where 100 is your national average. If it's above that, it's more expensive, and if it's below it, obviously it's cheaper than your national average. What I did to kind of compare, I wouldn't say apples to apples, but I took pretty much the 4 top populous cities in New York State and compared them to 4 of the main cities within the Emerald Coast. So we could kind of look at, all right, if I'm going to be moving down into the Emerald Coast, how much cheaper is it going to be? Because it is going to be cheaper. Let's compare New York City. So the overall cost of living over in New York City is a 168.6 out of 100. So it is almost double the national average to live within New York City as compared to your national average. Another thing that I did want to compare on that is your home prices, because if you're moving down here, you're probably going to know, what am I going to be paying for a house down in the Emerald Coast as compared to New York, whatever city it is you are coming from. So the median list price in New York City, for some reason, like I said, I don't have access to all your guys' records back in New York. The median list price in New York City is $1.18 million. Let's go and compare another one of the cities we're looking at, Hampstead, New York, where your overall cost of living over there is a 160 out of 100. So definitely more expensive than your national average. If you're looking at purchasing a home over in Homestead, you have a median price point of $576,000 over in Homestead, New York. Let's compare another city. We're going to be talking about Brookhaven, New York. Now we're getting a little bit cheaper as we go down this line. Brookhaven, you're looking at an overall cost of living of $147.1, with that median price point at $824,000. So the houses are definitely a little bit more expensive over in Brookhaven as compared to Homestead. The last city I am going to compare coming out of New York State is, I think it's called Islip. I don't know. You guys kind of tell me in the comments down below whether I am botching that city name. You're looking at an overall cost of living of $147.1, and that median price point on homes over there is $586,000. All right, we got New York out of the way. We know that New York is much more expensive than a lot of these other states within the United States. Let's compare a few of these cities that are in the Emerald Coast. So what we'd like to cover is Pensacola over into Destin. First one we're going to start with is Pensacola, Florida. That overall cost of living in Pensacola is at 87.2. So much cheaper than New York and the cities that we discussed up there. If you're looking at purchasing a home over in Pensacola, you got a median sales price of $285,000. Quick note on this. This is Pensacola proper. We are not incorporating Pensacola Beach into this. Of course, if you do go out into the Pensacola Beach area, your home prices are going to be much more expensive out there since you are right on the water, right? We're looking at easily, like a mil plus. You might be able to find something for a little bit less if you're looking at a condo over there. But Pensacola Beach will be a lot more expensive as compared to your main portion of Pensacola. Another area that we are going to hit if we go down the highway on 98 is we're going to be talking about Navarre. The overall cost of living in Navarre is at a 106, and your median sales price over in Navarre is $397,000. So you can see already the two cities that we covered in the Emerald Coast much cheaper than what you're going to be paying for a few of these other populous cities over in New York State. If we move even further down the highway, talking about Fort Walton Beach, your overall cost of living is a 100.9, and your median sales price is going to be $346,000. So it's crazy to see how much cheaper. But we got one in there. We're going to be talking about Destin. Destin has been growing in popularity these last few years as both a tourist spot and also a place that people are relocating into. What are we looking at though with the cost of living? So it is similar to Fort Walton Beach. You're looking at overall cost of living of 100.9. The cost of purchasing a house is going to be much different though. You're looking at a median sales price of $665,000. So this is actually breaking into those New York price points in regards to your home prices. The second thing I wanted to dive to, comparing New York pretty much to the Emerald Coast, and we're actually going to dive a little bit further south into South Florida, pick a city out of there, is the climate. Now here's something that when we moved, so we came from Colorado, we came from a colder state. I don't think it gets as cold in Denver as it does, say, up in New York. But we were thinking about that, right? It's like when we move into Florida, because we knew it's where we wanted to definitely go, is do we want to go somewhere where the climate is a lot warmer, or do we want to take advantage of, 3 seasons like kind of the Panhandle, the Emerald Coast does experience, as compared to, say, your southern Florida area? So let's go and go over this climate. I threw another South Florida city in here just to make sure that we do kind of cover it all. Kind of let you guys make the choice on whether you think you want to be in somewhere that's more South Florida or somewhere that's more in the Emerald Coast. The biggest thing, and I kind of already mentioned this, is you guys do have 4 true seasons in New York, where the Emerald Coast you have like 3 seasons. I'd say, so we actually have a property outside of Tampa. We say, you pretty much have 2 seasons. You have like hot summer and then you have mild summer. I did notice though it is getting a little bit cooler there in the winter months, more so than we remember when we always were visiting down there. But I'm just saying that like you get a true 3 seasons within the Emerald Coast. Like right now, it's actually pretty chilly out. It gets down into the 40s at nighttime, but then we are looking forward to that warmer weather coming back in March. But if you're coming from New York, do you want a complete 180 of what you've been experiencing? If you're in New York, you're leaving snow because you're not going to get snow here. There's like a 0.1% chance that you get it even in the Emerald Coast, like once every 5 years or something. It's just a dusting. But do you want to leave that 4 seasons for somewhere where it's going to be a lot warmer? Maybe you do. Maybe you're retiring and you're like, I would much rather just be in sunset warm weather all the time as opposed to somewhere where I am going to have to deal with these little bit cooler of temperatures. I'm just going to go over some stats with you. I got my notebook right here so we can kind of look over. I'm pretty much going to be going over the coldest month in New York, and then the coldest month in a city in the Emerald Coast, and then the coldest month in a city down in South Florida. And then I compare that also to the warmest month in each 3 of these areas. So let's just talk about New York. So New York, apparently your guys' coldest month is January, where you've got highs of 40s and you got lows of 29. Now let's go ahead and compare Pensacola in the Emerald Coast. So January is also the coldest month. In Pensacola, you're looking at highs of right around 61 degrees in January, and you're looking at lows of 45 degrees. Let's take a trip down south into Miami. You're looking at highs. Their coldest month is also January. You're looking at highs of 76 and lows of 63. So you can see there's not that big of a fluctuation in regards to the temperature down in Miami. It pretty much gets cooler as a whole, right? But your nights don't get too much colder. So if you want that break from the heat in the evening time, you're not going to get much of that down in Miami as opposed to the Emerald Coast. Now, another thing that always pops up is the humidity in Florida. I could tell you when we moved down here, it was going to be much worse than what we initially thought. I think it's because we have that property outside of Tampa. We go down there in July, and it was just insane. It felt like it was crazy humid down there. I will say though that these numbers, when I'm reading them off, when I go through and study all this, I think this is through weatherspark.com or one of those weather.com channels, is I feel like the humidity here it's pretty much states that it's similar to, say, somewhere like South Florida, but it doesn't feel like it. When we're down there, it seems like the humidity just takes over. You do not want to go outside, whether it be daytime or nighttime. It's just always miserable, super muggy. But let's go ahead and let's throw these humidity numbers at you, see what you guys think about that. So in New York, September is your most humid month, and you're looking at about 68% humidity. Your least humid month up in New York is going to be April, and you're looking at a humidity of 55%. Now let's dive over into Pensacola. In Pensacola, the most humid month is December, and you're looking at a humidity of 78%. The least humid month in Pensacola is October, and you're looking at about 69%. Let's dive on down to Miami, kind of see what we're looking at with Miami on that humidity. September is the most humid month in Miami, and it's 78% down in Miami, whereas your least humid month is going to be April as well, and you're looking at a humidity of 67%. You could see, so after reading these numbers, you're like, but wait a second, it looks like Pensacola is just slightly more humid than, say, somewhere like Miami. Like I said, I don't know, this is not scientific by any means, but anytime that we do go to Central to South Florida, it just seems like it's so much more muggy, so much more humid. There is a catch to that though, because when we go over to Pensacola, we live in Gulf Breeze, pretty much out on the Emerald Coast, out on this kind of like huge peninsula. We do get a breeze in. So there's even times where it's warm here, but it doesn't feel that bad. And then we go over in the mainland of Pensacola, it feels a lot more muggy over in the city. So there might be something to say about the breeze that does come across in this Emerald Coast area as compared to the mainland of Florida in the Emerald Coast. We talk about this all the time, how we came from a larger city, Denver, Colorado, but it is nothing like, say, where you guys come from in New York City and all these like large cities within New York. But I think we have something to kind of offer in regards to coming from a lot of people to someone that doesn't have so many people. So the third thing we're going to be talking about is pretty much the pace of life in the Emerald Coast as compared to New York. Before I do that though, guys, if you are planning on purchasing real estate in the Emerald Coast, we are here to help you out. We have a team of licensed real estate agents to help you out with all your real estate needs. Give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below it there will help you out. It doesn't matter date or time. If you aren't quite ready to purchase though, and you do want to follow along with this content to make sure you are informed on the Emerald Coast, do yourself a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, notification bell, that way you're notified every single time that we put out a brand new video. All right, so let's go and talk about the pace of life. Obviously in the Emerald Coast, it is much slower down here as compared to a larger city. When I visited New York, it was insane there. That's the only thing I could speak to, but I know that it's crazy busy. I hate to say it, but people aren't as friendly, it seems. And I only experienced, like I said, Manhattan, pretty much New York City area. So that's the only thing I could really base it off of. I also had a sister who lived in New York for a little bit. Same thing she says. I didn't realize how people just aren't that friendly within New York City. So the pace of life is going to be so much different. So what do you want? Are you wanting to go from a large city to, say, semi-large city or another big city than Miami, Tampa Bay, Fort Lauderdale? Like, these areas might be for you. But if you are looking for that slower pace of life, you will find that in the Emerald Coast. It's crazy. We always talk about that Southern hospitality down here. We always talk about how we personally had to slow down here, really kind of be a little bit more rare, a little bit more present of what we were doing within the area. The kids sports and everything is fantastic. And so even now, we just had a wrestling tournament back in Nashville. We went back up there to do a wrestling tournament. I was like, you know what? I do not miss this crazy hecticness of a larger city, because now I'm used to this small town feel, and there's something enjoyable about it. Yes, we don't have the same amenities that you would have in a larger city, but do I really need those? I'd rather have that slower pace of life so that we can enjoy our family, really be present with our kids and all those things that we can do in the Emerald Coast. And we really didn't have that as much when we lived in a larger city. Also with that pace of life, we have noticed so much that our stress levels, they used to be up here and they've come down so much more. With that laid back lifestyle, it comes with that. As long as you're not stressing yourself out on a constant basis, that slower pace of life just really does bring your stress levels down. And if you can do it where you work remote or you can find a job with the Emerald Coast, I highly recommend it for your own health, your own sanity. The fourth and final thing that I'm going to be talking about, this is definitely the most controversial, is a big reason that we are seeing people move into Florida from New York, is the politics. I mean, come on. We moved from somewhere that we experienced this where, Colorado pretty much was always like purple as long as I was growing up there and all that stuff, a purple state. A lot of Californians, an influx of them moved into Colorado, and now it is completely blue. And so with that, we started seeing higher taxes, a bunch of crap getting taught in our schools that we did not like, all these things. And so that's why we decided to choose the area that we did, because we were even looking at mid-Florida. We saw those few characteristics that we didn't like about Denver, Colorado. So it's like, why would we just go to a mild version of what we were seeing back in Denver? And so we moved into the Emerald Coast. And so it is going to be a lot different here. What is the biggest reason? If you're just moving down into Florida, but it's cheaper there, but I'm still going to vote for the same policies and stuff that I had up in New York. All you're doing pretty much is just voting for the same stuff that you left back in New York. So coming down here, like I said, it's just like we want to be a part of an area that we weren't taxed out of the butt. We weren't worried about what our kids were getting taught and all these things. And so it's something to really think about, because from our experience, we've hung out with a few people who moved down here from Jersey and New York. And they came down here for the reasons of, I am done. I am over kind of the blue, all the policies and stuff that's happening in these super liberal states. I'm just over it. I want to be somewhere where it's like all these morals and values that I traditionally believe in. That's where I want to be. And something to really sit down and think about. With that being said, though, I'm going to say there's a little caveat out there, because we can't, like I said, living in a super progressive area and moving here, we didn't realize how progressive we had become living something like that, coming down here, where there's some stuff that we just got used to, like legalized marijuana, something that we just always had back in Colorado. And so we were always, used to being around it and everything. Down here, we're like, oh crap, it feels kind of weird not having those same things. But ultimately, it's like, what is the main reason that you are making the change, moving from New York over into Florida? Because ultimately, it feels like Florida has just done a great job rebelling against all this crap that all these other blue states are doing. And it's been a great spot for those of us who have more conservative views to move to and not have to worry about all the crap. All right, cool guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. If you are looking at purchasing real estate, we have a team of licensed real estate agents to help you out. Give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below it there. We always answer. It doesn't matter date or time. If you're not quite ready to purchase yet, do yourself a favor. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, notification bell. That way you are notified about the latest information on the Emerald Coast. Until next time, we love you. Bye.